Not all of our minisodes need to be from listeners. In fact, places or lesser-known cases can sometimes take us to dark realms. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another installment of Dark Realms. Now, of course, those watching this on YouTube will know already, but this is the first video edition of Dark Realms for Season 22. And if you're listening in audio, head over to youtube.com/The Dark Paranormal, and you will find this video with me presenting it right there. Now, the dark realm that we're going to venture into today is from one of our listeners, Kaylee. And at first I was a bit unsure about covering it, but from reading about this place, I decided this was a definite dark realm to dive into. As ever, a huge thank you to everyone on our community over at Patreon. You literally keep the show going. And with our new changes we're implementing from the start of December, you can go over there, join the lowest tier, and receive every episode ad-free. And believe me, at this time of year, I know full well just how full all podcasts get with adverts. So for less than a coffee a month, you can get ad-free access. There are two other tiers. One, you can get early ad-free access to everything on the main feed. And finally, the highest tier, where you also get on top of those an additional episode named Dark Bites each and every week of the year. That's 52 times a year, without fail, every Sunday, which covers all of the stories which we can't cover on the main feed. So if you'd like to treat yourself before everyone else around this time of year, go to the show notes and there's a link for a free week trial at the highest tier so you can check it out. But on to today's Dark Realm. And today's Dark Realm is the haunted Hawthorne Hotel in Salem. It's a very elegant hotel with a long history and memory. The Hawthorne in Salem, Massachusetts opened its doors in 1925. Built on land with centuries of tangled history, before the hotel stood there, the site held old merchant buildings, a meeting house for sea captains, and if local legend is to be believed, land once linked to some of Salem's darkest chapters. The building quickly became known for its grand architecture, celebrity guests. But over the decades, whispers of strange activity have only grown louder. Guests talk of flickering lights, cold spots, hands tugging at the blankets, figures in hallways. Though the management always shrugs off these rumours, the people who stay there tell a very different story entirely. And today, we're going to cover 3 of the most terrifying spirits said to reside in the beautiful Hawthorne Hotel. Each with their own unsettling legend, their own dark history, and at least one eyewitness who insists this haunting is real. And we begin with the witch's ghost, Bridget Bishop's lingering curse. One of the most famous legends around this hotel is the haunting to Bridget Bishop, the first woman executed during the Salem witch trials in 1692. Although history places her orchid nearby rather than directly beneath the hotel, many locals believe her spirit drifted to this ground long before Hawthorne was built. Guests often describe the sudden scent of fresh apples moving through empty corridors, a smell inexplicable and out of place. Some have even claimed to see a woman in colonial-era dress, gliding past the stairwell before melting into the shadows. But the most disturbing encounter came from one guest who said, "I dreamt about an old woman, a witch, flying around the room, screaming and pulling off our blankets." The very next day, the face of that witch from that dream was in the doorframe of a photo I took of my partner. She had no idea the hotel was rumoured to be haunted. That's until after the experience. Others report walking into sudden waves of heat followed by sudden blasts of cold, as though something angry or tormented is moving through the room or through them. Many believe Bridget's ghost is not peaceful, that she's still seeking recognition, justice, maybe even revenge, for the horror of her execution during the witch trials. Next, we have the woman in white, the bride of sorrow on the 6th floor. Now, the 6th floor of the Hawthorne Hotel is notorious, especially room 612. A ghostly woman in a long white dress is often seen wandering the corridor, seemingly confused or distressed, before she vanishes without a sound. Housekeepers have reported feeling watched, being touched, or getting a sudden chill in a hallway, and many refuse to clean room 612 alone. A long circulated legend, unverified but deeply rooted in local lore, claims that decades ago a young bride checked into the hotel with her 2 children. Overcome by heartbreak after a devastating personal tragedy, she is believed to have taken her own life. And theirs. Many think she is the woman in white. One guest described a chilling sight. They quote, "A woman in early 1900s clothing sat in the chair by the window looking out to the common. When I turned on the light, she simply disappeared." Her daughter saw the same apparition. Guests in 612 reportedly have had their hair tugged, felt cold fingers brushing their skin, or heard someone whispering their name when no one is there in their ear. The most terrifying incident occurred when an entire floor of guests, dozens of people, experienced the same thing. A gut-wrenching scream in the middle of the night. Everyone came out into the hallway asking, "Has anyone else heard this?" And everyone had, although no earthly source was found. Now, whether she is a guardian, a victim, or just an echo of tragedy, the woman in white is considered one of the most disturbing presences in the Hawthorne Hotel. Lastly, we'll take a look at the crying child, the small, restless spirit of room 325. Now, room 325 is widely believed to be the most haunted room in the entire building. The spirit that's there is said to be that of a young child, possibly an infant, maybe a toddler. And it's said to be in its presence feels both heartbreaking and absolutely terrifying. Guests will regularly report being woken by the sound of a baby crying, sometimes for several minutes at a time. Parents will even mention that their own children have heard it too, although there would be no babies in the nearby rooms. Then come the physical sensations, the physical phenomena, disturbances. Bathroom taps turning themselves on, lights flickering on and off, blankets ripped off people in the middle of the night. The heavy impression of someone sat at the foot of the bed. Tiny handprints appearing on walls that had been cleaned just hours earlier. One family said, "When we returned to our room, small fingerprints had appeared on the bedroom wall. We left earlier than planned." Another guest, staying in a different room, woke to see what looked like 2 small girls stood silently in the corner, only to disappear when he blinked. Of course, who this child or these children are may be a mystery that remains. Some believe they're tied to the legend of the sorrowful bride. Others believe the spirits predate the hotel. But everyone agrees the activity surrounding this ghost is some of the hotel's most active and most disturbing. One witness, who goes by the name of Sam, says he took his grandmother there for a visit, a nice little weekend away. His grandmother screamed from the bathroom, and when he went into the bathroom, he found her staring in absolute fear and shock, hand over her mouth, staring at an empty bathtub. He asks her, "Why are you screaming at an empty bathtub?" And she looked at him bewildered. asking, "Can't you see it?" Apparently what she could see was a bath not only full of blood, but with two young girls seemingly bathing happily in that scene. The Hawthorne Hotel stands proud in the centre of Salem. Elegant, historic, and by all accounts, perfectly situated and perfectly normal. But these stories, these myths, these legends, or these truths, whispered from one witness to another, from one townsperson to another, from one villager to another, paint a very different picture. A vengeful witch, a grieving, possibly murderous bride, and a child seemingly lost between worlds. Now, whether you believe in these tales or not, one thing is certain. Everyone who stayed at the Hawthorne has left with a story they can't explain and will never forget. So if by chance you're lucky enough to stay in this elegant, magnificent building, do be very careful, because something else is already waiting in your room. And it's not room service, but it certainly is something of a dark realm. As ever, thank you for joining me on this dark realm. I appreciate this one is a touch shorter. However, we're just getting back into the swing of using video again for the first time in maybe 7 or 8 months, so bear with me. Our next one will be back to its normal length. I'll be more at home with the software I'm now using, and everything will be back to its normal running self. But in the meantime, until next time we step foot into a dark realm, in fact, next week, to give you a bit of a teaser, is the first episode of Dark Realms, as we mentioned last season, and the start of this season, I believe, where we will be taking a look at a mythical or historical paranormal creature or entity. So, press subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already to make sure you're first to see what that thing is, and if you haven't subscribed on your podcaster of choice, that's one very simple way to support the show. It's easy to listen to the show and to follow the show, but by hitting subscribe, it really helps us grow. And of course, any nice comments you want to put on there, anywhere, be that Apple or Spotify, please do so. Because as a podcast fan myself, one thing I'm guilty of is really liking a show and not leaving a nice review. And we all know that people who dislike a show will be the first ones to go on and give it a bad rating. So if you do enjoy the show and you're unable to support the show through Patreon or any other method, do not worry about that. Subscribe, leave a nice review, or maybe even just tell a friend about the show. So stay safe, take care, and I'll speak to you all next week from this purple corner of the studio for another Dark Realm. Until then, goodbye.